Okay, let's talk about logos. And you'll notice that in the prior video, I had on my red Nike shirt. Today, I have on my black one. So it's pertinent. I kept it on so we could talk about logos. The swoosh here is the Nike logo, and it's globally recognized. So logos are very, very important for your business. But what I've noticed a lot of people do is they get hung up on these types of things. I believe I've talked about this before, where it's the fluffy things in the business that people get hung up on. They get hung up on a perfect name. They get hung up on a perfect website URL. They get hung up on a perfect logo and things like that. And I'm not calling anyone out because I do this myself. As a matter of fact, I've got a brand new business model I'm ideating on, validating right now. And I've been doing the same thing for probably about 12 hours now, off and on, thinking about what exactly will I call it? What website URL can I get? If I do that, what's the logo going to look like? What are the colors I want to use? These types of things. So it's easy to get hung up on the brand piece of it. And logos, you want it to feel really, really good. They are important, but I don't want you to spend so much time that you never get your business rolling, you never get that momentum that you need. So I'm going to share with you some best practices when it comes to logos. Again, this all matters because if you do it well, your logo will symbolize your business, and that is part of a go-to-market strategy, is a logo, visual identity, design, all those different things. It matters a lot, even things like colors, all these things. And then in the next lesson, we're going to talk about a consistent brand voice and the tone in which you talk about, write about your business itself. So I totally get it. These are the fun things, but please promise me you're not going to spend so much time on this that you never get your business going in the first place. You could spend so much time dialing this in, and you just really need to go out and get customers. Otherwise, you don't have a business. But for today, let's talk about some things that make up what a logo is and isn't and how it really matters. So the first thing is simplicity is key. I think that's one of the great things about the swoosh from Nike is that it's just a simple, easy symbol. It's not a lot of things going on with it. It's not confusing to look at. You're not trying to figure out what it means and how it works and all these things. So simplicity is key. Avoid clutter. Focus on essential elements, easy, minimal lines and colors. Prioritize for readability, so your logo doesn't have to be a symbol. I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say there. It doesn't have to be a symbol. It can be text, right? So there's nothing wrong with leaving your business name just text. And in that case, make sure it's very readable so that when you think about the font you're going to use, that you use a font that's very, very readable. Make sure that it makes sense with your brand. So if you are in landscaping, having a tree or something like that makes sense. If you're in landscaping, having a picture of an iron bridge doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So make sure it's relevant to your brand. It reflects the personality of your brand, and that it considers your target audience. Because just like in the previous lesson when we talked about vision and mission and brand and all these different things and talking about how that helps you attract customers, helps you attract the right employees, the same thing's true for a logo. You don't want a logo that's going to offend your target market. So also when you design a logo in your business in general, make sure you're thinking about, if you're going to be an international business, does a word that you use in your business, does it mean something totally different? So for example, at one point for my financial advisory practice, I was going to call it Choto, CHOTO, Choto Capital Advisory. And the reason is because the road that I live on down here is called Choto, or near Choto. I don't live on Choto, but I live very near to it. And I thought that might be an interesting name. Well, I started to look at it, and Choto means little. Well, who wants a financial advisor who has focused on little bits of money, right? So all these things matter. So think about that. Relevance to your brand. Make sure it tells a story. Make sure your logo is memorable and your other brand assets are memorable. Strive for uniqueness. Now, this is where you can get hung up and spend too much time doing it. So don't do that. But if you can find something that's unique and not used before, then that can help. One of the ways to do that is combine elements. So maybe your logo isn't just one little element, but it's two, and you can combine those to become unique in some way. You want to create it for a lasting impression. You want your logo to stick with people. When they see it, they know what it is. When you see an apple with the bite out of it, that's Apple, the technology and a hardware company. Consider emotional elements when you're thinking about memorability. How does it make someone feel? We've talked about this before. How does it make your target market feel? How does it make employees feel? How does it make you feel when you look at your logo? Are you proud of it? Think about versatility. So ensure your logo looks good no matter how big it is. So if for some reason your logo, when you shrink it down, doesn't look very good, or you make it really big, maybe on a billboard, and it doesn't make sense, you need to think about that kind of thing. Make sure it's adaptable and flexible, things like that. With your logo, think about color choices. Believe it or not, colors actually matter because certain colors in certain cultures and just in general, societally, mean different things. So I can't think of a good one off the top of my head, but I think of certain colors of like magenta and purple to imply they actually imply royalty. Royalty. You can look this up. In lots of places, purple colors, they were hard to get in early days, and so royalty wore purple colors. So think about that. Maybe a certain shade of yellow is calming. Think about those things when you're thinking about color choice, and use your color choice strategically. When you do that, make sure you write down the color patterns. So I call those are called hex codes. There's other ways you can do it, but my favorite color that I use for my business, its hex code is 3B9C9C, and that's this teal sort of color that I use. So make sure you write that down. You'll be using that in all your materials. Think about, the psychology of the color that you pick. If you're in the financial industry of some sort of green that denotes money might make sense. Whereas you may not want to put something that's red if you're in the financial industry, because usually red, let's say you're in accounting, usually red is a bad thing and you don't want to use that. So now in fast food, red is used a lot. I'm not sure why that is, but you can look it up. McDonald's and others use red, Wendy's and all these others. A lot of these others use red in their, I'm assuming it's because of meat, but maybe you can look it up. Choose appropriate fonts. Again, something that's not super cursive and impossible to read. And you could do a custom font if you wanted to. Originality, avoid things that are overused. So plus signs, that gets used a lot. Dollar signs, that gets used a lot for financial. Again, you can tell what industries I'm used to. Make sure it's authentic and don't plagiarize it. So you wouldn't want to use this swoosh if you liked it, right? You need to do something. Matter of fact, this is trademarked by the company. So if you use it, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So if you want to do a swoosh, maybe you could do a swoosh that looks completely different than this swoosh. Okay. So think about that. Test it out. Early days of your business, when you're ideating and validating, you're going back to my lesson on the bookends of product management. First bookend is ideating and validating a product. When you're doing that, make sure you also test out the brand assets, I would call them. Things like your logo. If you have an idea, you could post it out on social media and say, hey, A or B, which one do you all like better? That type of thing. And so think about timeless designs. You also don't want something that's going to only matter right now or not work later. Think about it being timeless, and this is a timeless design, whereas maybe if they did something completely different, it wouldn't make sense. So, and then lastly, I would say make sure your logo sort of ties back to the things we talked about before: your vision, your mission, your values. Make sure all these things align. It is a lot of work to think about when you're designing a brand asset like a logo. But it's very important, and it can be a lot of fun. Again, don't overdo it. Get to a good point and then move on instead of spending too much time. But remember, brand assets matter a lot because they speak to your target audience, and that is entirely part of go-to-market activities.